We have three models. The model we're working on today is a Premier. We also have a Pro and a Pro XL. They are very similar, but there are some differences, and I'll touch on those points when we get there. You should always use this video with the manual. It is meant to complement the manual, and they should both be used together to make this an easy process. First things first, we'll start with wheel assembly. Let's get going. The first thing we need to do is tip the cart over so we have easy access to the frame. Take our axle bracket and mount it to the frame with the bolts and lock nuts, 2 on each side. Now I have both brackets in place. We must leave them loose to aid in installation of the axle and the wheels. So now I will install the axle through the first bracket into the second. Okay, now to install the wheels. On the Premier model, it only uses one wheel, so we will install it with the valve stem and the grease fitting facing out so that we can access them later on. If you have the larger model with the 2 wheels, the first wheel must be installed with the valve stem, grease fitting facing in, because you'll be putting the second wheel on and it will cover that up if you don't. Okay, so next, for the single wheel, we will put on a large washer and secure the wheel with a cotter pin in the hole in the shaft here. And you bend the ends of the cotter pin with pliers to hold everything in place. That's for the single wheel version. On the larger models with the 2 wheels, I'll go ahead and switch this around again to show you. Valve stem on the first wheel goes in, and then we install a large washer in between the 2 wheels. The second wheel goes on with the valve stem and grease fitting facing out for access. Then a second large washer goes on, and it all is secured with the cotter pin. And you bend the ends of the cotter pin with pliers to hold everything in place. Okay, so I have the axle and wheels installed. This is a Premier, so I did have 2 extra washers left over that will not be used for this application. Now at this point I tighten up both axle brackets. Okay, wheels are on, brackets are tight. Now we can flip it over for the next step. So the next step is installing these gas springs. To do that, we'll have to pull the lift handle to release the cart bed and allow us to tip it back. One thing you'll notice, there are only 2 studs on the Premier model. For the Pro and Pro XL, they will have studs on this side also, because that requires 2 gas springs. So to install these gas springs, you have a hole in the end that will slide over the ball in the stud. And you have to remember that this shaft portion of the gas spring faces up and the fatter portion down. And you just line up the hole with a stud and push it onto the stud. Do this end, you rotate the end to align with the stud. Pull your cart bed down just enough to line it up and push that end on. That's the first one. And like I said, for the Pro and Pro XL, do not install this gas spring yet. Now we need to prepare the power unit. And the first thing we do there, if you have the Premier and you ordered a jack kit, you need to install that. The Pro and Pro XL will already have one installed. Next is installing the outlet chute onto the power unit. I have my hardware bag for the power unit. So first of all, you place this flange on the outside of this plate on the engine side. Bring it over and snap it over the flange. First hardware you install is a bolt, lock washer, and flat washer. On the back side, just a few threads, hand tight, actually keep it quite loose. Now for the flange, we have 4 bolts and lock nuts. You might have to move this around a little bit to get your holes to line up better and make it easier. Those we install loosely as well. Now to tighten the hardware, the first bolts you should tighten are these on either side. And that will level out the outlet chute. Now I'll tighten the back one. And then these 2 in front. Okay, so at this point we wheeled the power unit in place. Cart next to it, make sure that your cart bed is tilted up. Make sure that the jack is in its lowest position. And we have in a product package, that's the large package with your manuals in it, there is a small bag that has some hardware in it. Pull out the 2 shorter clevis pins with the clips, and these are what you'll use to assemble this unit together. Now we're going to mount the cart to the power unit, and we start by sliding the cart until we align the holes here. Insert the pin as far as it will go, and then it's a good idea to have your helper lift up on the chute so you can better align the holes. Then you secure it with the clip. And you'll do that same process for this hole. Secure that one with a clip also. Okay, now that we have the 2 clevis pins installed to hold everything in place, in the power unit hardware bag, there's large bolt, large lock nut. You put one of these near each hole next to each clevis pin. Install the lock nut. And do the same at the front, making sure you don't pinch wires if you have the left start. Now we need to take this cable link off the impeller housing bracket. This is just where it was stored in shipping. Move it back here out of the way. And next, we'll insert the hose support into the impeller housing bracket. Next, we'll install the hose onto the impeller housing. First, you'll have to loosen up the clamp just enough so it'll slide over the housing. One thing you have to remember is this hose clamp needs to go on the housing just past this nub, and what that'll do is help to hold it on. To install the rubber strap, we insert one end into the hose support, loop the other end under the hose, and back up through the hose support. Okay, now that we're finished with this part of the assembly, we can close the cart and move this unit out of the way for the next step. You should make sure that you always close the cart from this corner, the left side corner, on the same side that the handle lever is